and the media got to see where we have a small cove where we are busy trying to wrap up cleanup so that school can resume tomorrow for Scarborough Secondary School students. We then stopped lower down at that Signal Hill River exit point, and looked at where we still have a heavy concentration. But at the time we were there, we had perhaps about 4 or 5 tanker trucks doing the extraction simultaneously. We looked at the areas that we have cordoned off, and I was able to highlight to the members of the media for security reasons why those areas are cordoned off and why we are begging you to drive on alternative routes. We also stopped at the Petitru Beach area, and we went into the triage that we have set up for wildlife rescue and rehabilitation, and we were able to do some work there with at least one spectacle caimans, and not so much the frogs that we saw there, but we saw that they have animals that they're actively cleaning up as we speak. We did not going to interface with the volunteers, and that's because out of respect for the volunteers, I did not want to go into their space where they are working with cameras in their face. So we did not go directly into the interface with the volunteers and the workers. And now we are here, and a short while ago, Sergio from Ambipa gave them sort of a brief synopsis of the operations here, literally at ground zero. Today I am joined by the director for TEMA, Mr. Stewart. We also have Jean-Baptiste from ODPM, who is with us, and they came up with 22 volunteers that came up on the Coast Guard vessel. We have Lieutenant Valentine, who is the base commander here in Tobago. We also have the 3 main contracted companies, well, 3 of the 4 main contracted companies who are here working. You would have seen Serpentine earlier, and they are treating with the wildlife rescue and rehabilitation. But on my right, we have Kaizen, here represented Mr. Rupchan. We have Ambipa by Sergio, and we have Tiger Tanks by Dukaran. And so I have them on site so that they can answer questions in terms of the operational things that are happening in the space. Just by way of some quick updates, and then we will go straight into your questions. And between myself, Director Stewart, ODPM, and the contractors here, we will respond to the questions. But that's by way of quick updates of some things that are happening in the space. One, we still have OSRL with us, and you met the lead for that team earlier this morning. And that's the international team that is doing quality control. We should be joined later this week by Petrobras, and that's out of Brazil. They are coming for the knowledge exchange, so that they see how we respond to a spill of this kind, and look at the logistics, look at the challenges, so that they too can be prepared for their operations in Brazil. Today we were blessed to have operating on the waters, and I'm sure you saw a pilot boat out there. They might be retrieving the ROV as we speak, and that's ROV services provided by Shell. So Shell has provided that to us, and I did mention that Shell, BP, Woodside, they are all contributors to the effort, the cleanup efforts that we have here. We also have the Ministry of Energy still working alongside us, and the Ministry of Energy is preparing to bring additional resources. We met late last night, and we'll disclose what those resources will be later on in this week. But they are working on some additional resources that can assist us in amplifying the work, expediting the work even further. You can see that a considerable amount of work has happened. It is not as bad as it was when we got this call on Wednesday, this 7th of February. So it means that work has continued at a significant pace, and you have learned from the workers the long hours they work, and the fact that in some instances they work in shifts, both day and night. so that we can get this 15-kilometer radius clean. You will observe behind you several boom installations on the east of the wreckage, west of the wreckage, and if you look further west, you will see at least 2 other boom installations there. And that's because as the fuel-like substance oozes out of the vessel behind us, we are ensuring that we can contain it within the zone, that we can deflect it towards the zone, that we can prevent any further leakage going west and northwest out of our territorial waters, and so that we can extract from the waters right behind us. You have seen the skimmers and what they look like and how they will be utilized and are being utilized to extract the substances. You have also seen the frac tanks that we are using for storage, so you know that we are not just collecting the waste and indiscriminately dumping them. I'm sure you have spotted some temporary cells along the coastline. Those are essentially holes that are properly lined to prevent any leakage, so that we can temporarily store the waste, and then from that point we extract it and move it to final place. So we have a strict waste management plan. You have also heard about how we have constant air monitoring, and you have also seen beyond the portable air monitoring kits that we use, you have also seen that EMA is setting up a much more permanent infrastructure down in the compound of the Department of Natural Resources and the Environment, down at that's Wilson Road Extension, and you see that they have given a commitment that that facility will remain until September. So we are not just testing air quality now, but we'll be testing air quality post the operations here. And so I am going to open. You have had a long day, a long morning, so I'm going to open to questions, and we will answer as best as we can all of the questions that you may have. The effort so far, I think, has been quite valiant and robust in most cases. And I want us to appreciate for a moment that Tobago had zero of this infrastructure on island. This is not in Trinidad where people could get a high-up truck and just drop things on a flatbed and drive speedily to a location and set up operations. This is a case where we have to commandeer spaces on a vessel, even at the risk of inconveniencing Tobagonians and Tobago business to get equipment to Tobago. We have had instances where the Port Authority, and they have been excellent, exceptional in facilitating us. We even had instances where the fast ferry that doesn't normally take certain tier weight in terms of vehicles have taken larger vehicles just to facilitate this. We have had the Coast Guard bringing people and equipment up. They brought up over 22 people this morning, well, overnight, along with additional equipment. We have had other vessels from Trinidad having to bring in equipment. What you don't see is that sometimes at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, we are on the port offloading from a vessel so that there will be no interruption to the fast ferry when it comes in for 6 in the morning. All of those things have had to happen. And given the reality that this is an island that, although we had a Tobago oil spill plan, and there is a national oil spill plan, this is an island where we just did not have the infrastructure on island. And given that we did not have the infrastructure on island, considering what we were able to do between Wednesday the 7th and Thursday the 8th, I think remarkable. Within 24 hours, we were able to declare this tier 2 and make it a national event. Within 24 hours, we were able to have, in fact, in under 12 hours, probably within 1 to 2 hours, we already had Ministry of Energy and ODPM caucusing with TEMA and working out the logistics. So, given the challenges that we have, I would say the efforts have been both valiant and robust at the same time. Right. So we we are at tier 2, but you can expect some further announcements later this week. Given the conversations we have had with the Ministry of Energy, we can expect some further developments later this week because we are approaching a juncture whereby we will need to call on international resources to further assist. Because, for one, we have to have a discussion about salvaging. Secondly, we'll have to have a discussion about extracting what might be stored in the vessel itself and has not leaked out. So all of those things will determine the movement to the next tier level. But we are ensuring we dot the I's, cross the T's. We are having the conversations with international partners. We have had the conversations with the UN. We have had the conversation with SIDEMA and other similar agencies. So we are having the conversations with international partners, and they are prepared and just waiting for the appropriate moment for us to make that distinction. But at this present moment, we are working feverishly to ensure that we do all the cleanup at the ground level, at the base level. We want that by the time we get to the weekend, that the Lambo area should smile as Scarborough is smiling now from the cleanup efforts, and that's the goal that we are aiming towards.
Chief Secretary Candace Jackson from Tobago updates Salvage News. Is there a reluctance to declare tier 3 level?
No, there is no reluctance, actually not on my part at all, and certainly not from the central government part. I am not receiving any undue pressure not to declare it at tier 3. But there is a national oil spill contingency plan that has clear guidelines as to how we should operate, what steps should be taken before we get to tier 3. And so what we are doing is ensure that we take all of those steps so that we fall strictly in line with the national policy and the regulations as we have them.
And while the Ministry of National Security indicated that they are taking the lead in trying to find the ownership of the vessel and that sort of thing, so we can even talk about compensation and all those things that a lot of people have questions for, is the THA itself making any headway in that? Are you taking on that battle, or are you just
Absolutely. We are doing our own independent investigations. It is in our interest to do so. This is us minding our business. I have famously spoken about minding your business. We have to mind our business. The Ministry of National Security will do what the Ministry of National Security is supposed to do by law. But as a body corporate established by Act 40 of 1996, we have our feelers out. We are actively doing our own investigation. I can tell you that we are getting some leads, and at the most appropriate time, once we have the necessary confirmations, because I will not put out speculations. For the things I am unsure of, I will ask questions publicly and strategically to see what answers I receive. But certainly at the appropriate time, with the appropriate confirmations and surety in hand, I will disclose what our leads are leading to, so to speak. The THA is keeping all of its options open, including its legal options. I will admit that we have been having conversations with our legal representatives about the matter. So we are definitely considering every bit of our legal options, because this has had an impact on us. This has a cost. This takes away time, effort, resources, energies. Just to prepare here so that these frac tanks can be here, works had to work over 24 hours, day and night, just to lay material on the roadway so that a large truck, can make its way in here so that we can have a staging area here at ground zero. You're seeing the area under the GOC there and how it's done. That's resources. We have to take that from Stolly Park to do that. There's resources that I could have fixed some road for some farmer. that we had to fix to do mop-up operation. Think about all of our equipment. Works had to take all of the tower lights that it has in its service and strategically place them so Works no longer has tower lights to use right now. We have to utilize almost all the trucks we have to our disposal. We have to bring workers, consider whether we're going to compensate them more. That costs that will cost the island of Tobago something, and so naturally we have to consider all our options in recuperating those costs.
As we only talk about
And I
cost.
could tell you that I don't have a figure for cost because let me explain to you how the let me explain to you how the procurement works for an emergency situation. Because there is a procurement act that governs how we ought to procure goods and services. It's an emergency. So the procurement officer assigned to OCS, a named procurement officer, the chief administrator assigned one of those to work directly with TEMA so that they can work with speed in getting what is needed, which means jumping on the phone, making phone calls, sending emails, sending letters, because we don't have time to put something out in the papers or online to advertise and then people bid and then you do an evaluation. This is an emergency. So the procurement officers are managing that part along with the accounts. It will only get to me at the executive level at a little later stage. And that's when I will be able to properly quantify the cost. Occasionally, the chief ad, who is the accounting officer, will call or will write to say, look, we have one particular service and this looks as if it's inching towards $1 million. Tell me, is this something the executive will support in ensuring we get paid? And I, as Secretary for Finance and Chief Secretary, will say yes. Chief Ad, you all proceed. But in the actual procurement and day-to-day operations of what is required for this emergency, I am not a part of it. So it's difficult for me to give that answer with certainty until more of that information makes its way up to the executive level.
So my question relates to cost.
Right?
As you mentioned, in terms of the different things you all had to procure, we know at the press briefing when the Prime Minister indicated, just as what he said, it's an emergency, the THA would not have budgeted or it was not budgeted as part of your allocation. Did you have further conversation with the Prime Minister? Because he did indicate the central government is willing to include some sort of national support to offset the costs relating to this emergency. Any sort of discussion was had?
Well, I'm so very happy that the media does pay attention sometimes, and that you paid attention to that wonderful statement by my good friend, Honorable Prime Minister Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. So what will happen is that we have coming up in a few months the what is known as the midterm review. That's where they go back to Parliament and reallocations happen by the Minister of Finance. So the process is that as soon as this thing starts to settle down, I will now include in my requests of the central government at the midterm review the monies that we will expend to do this. We won't necessarily wait until we get all of those monies from central government to act. We will have to act up front and in good faith, because I believe we can trust the word of the Prime Minister. In good faith, when we make the request and we send the bills down, we will get the requisite supplementary allocation to our budget. So that's the process in how that's going to be done. So we do have a few weeks left before those submissions will be made. I know yesterday the chief and myself, the accounting staff and team, we met, and the discussion was about preparing those things so that I, as Secretary for Finance, will get it in a timely manner to be able to dispatch to the Ministry of Finance so we get the requisite supplements to the budget.
My second question as it relates to the IMA. I know the last time you said IMA wanted to go back in to get, for want of a better term, purest form of the substance. Any updates on this?
Yes, we got the report yesterday. I got it yesterday evening. The report, I don't have it in front of me. I don't know why I left it in the vehicle. But the report suggests that the fuel-like substance that we are seeing um, when I say this is that I wish that we handled the disclosure of that information differently. And I'll tell you why. We have been struggling to discover who is the current owner of this vessel. At this present time, there is a stronger motive for whomever is the current owner to not come forward, to hide their tracks as much as possible, and to cover up themselves as much as possible. And I wish we were a lot more tactful with how we treated with that information, so that we could truly catch in the shortest possible time, or apprehend in the shortest possible time, the owner, the current owners of this vessel. But time is longer than twine, and I'm pretty confident we will get to the bottom of it. The police will do their work. I had a conversation with ACP Hazel about the matter, and they are doing their work actively. They are doing the active investigations, and of course we will continue to get support from the Coast Guard on site here and out at the vessel, so as to ensure that if in the future anything else that is similar in nature that pops up, it can be treated with quickly. And let me commend the workers on site. They reported it immediately. The police came immediately, and the matter was dealt with immediately. All right, so I want to thank you. I know we had a long day, and just continue to reassure Tobago and Tobagonians home and abroad, reassure the global community, reassure the nation that we are actively working. We are doing the best we can. We are using the best technology we have available. We are pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing to get the cleanup operations done. And I wish to end by thanking several of our stakeholders who are here. We have Ambipar, we have Kaizen, we have Tiger Tanks, we have the EMA, we have the IMA, we have ODPM, and they are always our best partners and our biggest cheerleaders. When they have a crisis, we cheerlead, and when we have a crisis, they cheerlead, and they send resources to assist us as well. We have Heritage, we have the Ministry of Energy, we have the Ministry of Works on board. We have the Coast Guard, the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard on board. We have all the divisions of the THA working together, especially the ones that treats with the environment. That is Secretary Pantin and Assistant Secretary Tate. Infrastructure, that's Secretary James and Assistant Secretary Sampson. We also have Health, Secretary Dr. B. Israel and Assistant Secretary Craig. They have been meticulous in ensuring that the wheels keep turning. I want to say a big shout out to the TRHA. Most people don't know that for most of the days, we don't have to use a caterer to get the meals for the workers, because for most of the days, the TRHA is in fact providing those meals for the operations, and I think that must be commended. We also must commend several in the private sector who are coming on board. We have RBC. RBC came on board with volunteers, and RBC is preparing to make parents, the teachers, the principals. They facilitated and worked along with us. So I really wish to thank you all. Let me reiterate for citizens of Tobago and to visitors alike, please, if you are not one of those volunteering in the affected areas, please avoid those areas as much as is possible. We have put the warnings out publicly. We have placed barriers, and I see people just bold-facedly just driving through without care. Please, we are begging you for your own safety. The THA will not accept liability in instances where we have warned you and we have put the safety measures in place, and you have breached them yourself. So please protect yourself and your own lives. The signs are there at the hot zones telling you no smoking and nothing flammable, no open flames and so on. Please respect those signs so that you can remain as safe as possible. Please, we will get through this, Tobago. I believe the end is in sight. I believe that we have come a very long way since the 7th of February. I believe that TEMA and all the agencies that Director Stewart that he is leading at this time, I think they have done a good job of restricting this within a 15-kilometer radius. Um, because it could have been worse. It could have gone to other areas. It could have disrupted the operations at the port. There are so many could haves, and those could haves were in fact prevented. And I want to commend them publicly for doing that. I want to thank you all. I wish you all a good day until next time for an update, perhaps later in this week. Today's Tuesday, so maybe by Friday we will have some solid updates for you pursuant to what we discussed today. So thank you. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Bring down your two men. Tell them they're coming on your